The lazy peon.
Douchebags, assholes and trolls. I'm sure you've met plenty of these people in real life, but in a massively multiplayer game like World of Warcraft, where people are protected by the shadows of anonymity and a character name to hide behind, I can guarantee you'll meet many of these people in their masses on a daily basis. In this video we're going to look at 10 ways you can successfully become a certified douchebag in the World of Warcraft. Not that it's something I'd advise doing or even being proud of. Number 10. People that turn up to raids unprepared. There's nothing I find more annoying when raiding in pugs or with my guild than people who consistently turn up to raids with broken armor, no potions, no flasks, and not the slightest clue about any boss tactic in the raid. And despite all of this, they still have the audacity to ask other people who are prepared if they can have some of their raiding supplies. I've even been in groups of people who have held up the entire raid group from having to half-stone, fly to the auction house and buy potions, then asking for a summon back despite there being no warlock in the group. If you do this on a regular basis, you are a douchebag. Let me tell you why. Many people who play this game are very limited in the amount of time they get to raid. Do you really think after a hard day's work, when they finally get to relax and do something they enjoy, they want to be standing around waiting for someone to get their shit together during the raid because they were too lazy to do it beforehand? No. And this is why you're a douchebag. Number 9. Impatient tanks. If you're a new player leveling up through dungeons, there's a good chance you'll come across this guy.
Alright, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
He's the tank that charges through half the dungeon, pulling everything before the healers even had a chance to zone in. 9 times out of 10 he'll die, and I can guarantee one of the first things he'll say is something along the lines of, "What the fuck? Where are my heals? You suck, healer!" After the healer explains that he wasn't even in the dungeon, this guy will carry on with ridiculously large pulls with a complete disregard for the healer's mana. Eventually the healer will try and have a mana break, but this hero continues to charge ahead and pull everything in sight, eventually dying and causing a wipe. You'll then release spirit and be bombarded with abuse from this ego-driven asshole. "Where were my fucking heals? Learn to play, noobs! You guys suck!" He'll then leave the dungeon instantly, finding another group and repeating the same shit again. Seriously, fuck this guy. He's every healer's worst nightmare and manages to put a lot of new players off the idea of healing. If this sounds like you, then congratulations. You're a douchebag and you ruin my dungeons. Number 8. The guy that trolls new players. Although sometimes it can be fun to mess around with newbies, I remember all too well some of the trolls I met as a new player. I remember being told I couldn't use the auction house until max level. If I flag myself for PvP, I'll earn more experience whilst leveling. And the most annoying troll was, whenever I asked trade chat where I could find something, be it a quest giver, an NPC or vendor, some douchebag would always reply with the wrong directions, sending me halfway across Azeroth looking for something that wasn't there. I quickly learned that trade chat was not a good place to ask for advice. It's more like a feeding ground for trolls waiting to prey upon any new player that unwittingly dares to ask a question there. Whilst trolling newbies in most cases is fun and harmless, sending them across Azeroth into zones where mobs will one-hit them is a bit of a douchebag thing to do. Number 7. People that demand a summon. This isn't much of an issue if you're raiding in a guild, but if you're pugging, you'll know exactly how annoying those guys are that demand a summon, despite you being halfway through the raid and having no warlock in the group. 9 times out of 10, it's quicker for the person to just take the flight path to the raid, rather than waiting for 2 people to go outside and summon them. Another douchebag thing to do when you join a group is instantly go AFK whilst the group is summoning people, then come back whilst they're all inside and ready to go, then demand your summon! Douchebags like this waste everyone's time because they're too lazy to just half-stone to the garrison and take a flight path. Here's some tips for you. Number 1. Set your half-stone as close as you can to the latest raid. Number 2. If you're planning on pugging a certain raid, go to the entrance before signing up to groups. If everyone did these things, it would save so much time. Number 6. Ninja pullers. If you really want to be a douchebag in World of Warcraft, it's essential that you master the art of ninja pulling. Ninja pulling is where you pull mobs in a dungeon or raid as a DPS or healer. Pulling mobs is the tank's job, but there's some people out there that will disagree with me. Hunters, I'm looking at you. There's nothing more annoying as a tank than a DPS pulling mobs. As a tank, it's your job to set the pace of the dungeon and keep an eye on the healer's mana. If you're waiting for the healer to have a mana break but someone decides to run ahead and pull, there's a good chance it could wipe your group. If you're raiding and the tank sets a pull timer, as a DPS there's a guaranteed way to piss off the entire raid group by attacking the boss before the timer's up, as it screws up with everyone's potions at the pull, resulting in a huge loss of DPS.
What the fuck are you fucking moron?
Fuck you, Kasam. Dick. Wow. But the most scumbag thing a ninja puller can do is pull the boss with the intention of wiping the group. This is a common occurrence in raids where someone's performing badly and they're called out for it. Before leaving the group or being kicked, they'll pull the boss before the group's ready, causing a wipe. If it's a pug group, this usually initiates mass leaving where the raid group will most likely need to reform after. Hunters are the class most well known for ninja pulling, as they can get away with doing it without dying. Just set the ability misdirect on the healer, pull everything with barrage, watch the healer get aggro and die, then feign death for the mobs to reset. It's probably a good idea to keep on your hunter's good side. Number 5. Gankers. Some of the biggest douchebags I've met in this game pride themselves on their amazing ability to gank low level players. I've even had the misfortune to be spawn camped by one of these arseholes on my mage. I'm sure the only fun these guys get out of this is the knowledge that the person they're killing is getting increasingly pissed. Other douchebag gankers include rogues that hide away in the shadows, pop all their cooldowns, kill someone, use vanish, and then wait for their cooldowns to come back before repeating the process. Good job, you managed to kill someone that was unprepared, wearing no PvP gear and at half health from questing. You must feel really good about yourself, douchebag. Number 4. Raging raid leaders.
You better fucking play so good you've never played that good before! Now fucking hate this mob! Hard!
As a raid leader, it's your job to motivate the group, come up with a strategy and ultimately lead your group to success. Well, there's some raid leaders out there that seem to think the only way to motivate their raiders is by screaming at them for every mistake they make.
Let me get this straightforward to you, you stupid fucking idiot! Your healing fucking blows dog shit!
I understand the whole progression mindset, I understand how important beating hard content is for people, but losing your shit and hurling abuse at people is more likely to have a negative effect on their performance than a positive one. No matter what level you play at, World of Warcraft is still just a game. People play it because it's fun, and if you're the guy screaming at people through voice chat, then you're ruining that fun for everyone else. Instead of going nuts at someone and being a total asshole douchebag, send them a message telling them what they've done wrong and remove them from the group. That way you're not going to create an awkward atmosphere for the rest of your raiders.
What the fuck was that shit?
Number 3. Crashing RP events. There's a lot of role players in World of Warcraft that put a lot of time into creating a backstory, making a cool RP transmog, and immersing themselves into the game. Unlike raiders and PvPers, they find fun in WoW by creating their own stories and adventures. Most don't care in the slightest about progression. Most RP guilds have events a few times a week in which they'll go to a certain location and have fun whilst in character. Unfortunately, these events are sometimes ruined by some of the biggest douchebags in the game. The guys that crash role-playing events. There's a reason this is so high up on the list. Role-players look forward to these events the same way raiders look forward to raiding. Sometimes there's anywhere between 40 and a few hundred people that attend these events, depending on the size of the guild and the event. As you can imagine, they sometimes take a lot of organisation, and after all of that, your event can be ruined by 2 or 3 douchebags standing on people with their mammoths after using the elixir of giant growth and the gammon toy. These guys aren't just ruining the fun of a few people in a dungeon or raid, they're ruining it for a group of up to 100 people with absolutely zero fucks given. These are some of the most scummy douchebags in the game. Number 2. Ninja looters. Any raider will tell you that one of the most demoralising things that can happen in a raid is having loot taken by the loot master without anyone else even having the chance to roll or having a fair shot of getting loot. This is called being a loot ninja.
Oh my god!
What the fuck?
Oh my god.
I'm going to kill myself right now.
These guys are complete assholes, usually possessing a giant ego and a zero fucks given attitude. Despite everyone in the group helping to down the boss, they often feel like they deserve it more than everyone else. Something I've come across recently in the Blackrock Foundry with the high drop chance of BOE epics is players equipping a lower item level piece of gear just so they can roll on the BOE epics and sell them on the auction house rather than give it to someone that actually needs it. This is a real douchey thing to do and it really pisses me off. If you're the kind of guy that does this, you sir are a douchebag. Number 1. People that use bots. As most of you are aware, using bots is against pretty much every online game's terms of service, yet people still do it in World of Warcraft despite the possibility of having their account banned. I don't understand why people would pay $13 a month for a game and not play that game. If it's too much for you to just level a character, make gold or do battlegrounds yourself, then why even play that game? What's the point? Botting in World of Warcraft completely destroys the multiplayer aspect of the game, especially in PvP. If you log on to do some battlegrounds past midnight, you'll often find that more than half of the players in that battleground will be bots, just following each other around set paths. If you use bots, you're one of the biggest douchebags in World of Warcraft. All you're doing is ruining PvP, contributing to inflation, and making the game less social. I could possibly understand botting if the game was more of a boring grind fest like RuneScape for example, but leveling in WoW is relatively fast compared to other games, and botting battlegrounds and endgame content where the fun begins makes absolutely no sense to me. You're better off finding a game you can actually bear to play rather than watching a piece of software do all the work for you, because that isn't gaming. So that's it for this video guys. I'd really like to hear about your experiences with douchebags in this game in the comments below, as I'm sure I'll have a hell of a lot of fun reading them. If you enjoyed this list, I have a bunch more World of Warcraft top 10s on my channel, such as 10 reasons to play Warlords of Draenor, top 10 ugliest NPCs, 10 common mistakes by new WoW players, and many more. Feel free to give this video a like or dislike as you see fit, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this from me in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.